Hey, it's Maria here. My dear introverted intuitive feeler, it's good to be here with you today. I'm here with you because I wanted to remind you that you don't have to perform to be important. You are important without having to perform for me or for anybody else. And you can be so very proud of who you are without engaging in what we call toxic pride. You know, I understand personally how important self discovery is and how important it is to learn to stand up for yourself. And I also very personally understand what it's like to have to self establish every day. For those of us who've experienced some challenges in our childhood where we weren't allowed to be ourselves, from that all the way to being outright abused, it can be very hard to stay true to ourselves and be who we really are. So I personally, having to do those self-establishment exercises every day to stay on course, I see what it is. I hear what it is, and I hear you. If you're struggling to self-establish, please know you're not alone. I cheer you on when you're asking yourself the questions: how am I feeling right now? And what do I need right now? And I want to hear the answers to those questions. What's important to you? And where are you at? I support you wholeheartedly when you come up with ingenious ideas and you execute those ideas. And we certainly see a lot of that introverted, intuitive feeler genius in the world. And we need it. The world needs you to be exactly who you are. And I will be there to cheer you on when your ideas impact positively those who are around you and those who you want to serve. It's so amazing to see you execute your ideas with enthusiasm. It gives me life. It feels very life-giving. Now, I do support you unconditionally, unless whatever decisions you make are actually asserting conditions of control or hurt on other people. This I won't accept. I won't accept these things, this toxic pride, while I do encourage you fully to take pride in who you are. Toxic pride is something that those of us who have not established ourselves as full human beings through the terrible twos or a difficult set of teenage years, we can actually fall victim to. When we hear that somebody believes in us, we start believing in ourselves. And when we realize that we have the right to set boundaries, we may start to become drunk with that power. And we may end up, even unknowingly, hurting other people, even those who love us and who care for us. So toxic pride is only thinking about the benefits that the decision brings you, not thinking about the pitfalls. You might overlook the effects on your decision, on your long-term vision, or on other people. It's toxic pride is also about applying a positive filter onto everything. So we convince ourselves that things are better than they are. And with toxic pride, we lose our humility and we tap into our innate sense of entitlement that no matter how abused we have been in our lives, we still have hidden somewhere deep within us. Now, thank you, Ruby, for coming to help me. But I'm going to ask you to go backwards, please. Thank you. You're such an amazing friend. So, when we only focus on what's going well, we stop ourselves from growing, and we can engage what's called spiritual bypasses. And you may have heard about spiritual bypasses before, and it's where we basically um, internalize something. We think that by understanding something, we now have overcome something, and we just pretend like everything's fine now that we know something, a little bit about something. A spiritual bypass is actually refusing to deal with the psycho-emotional pain that comes with growth, and simply moving on because you're wanting to feel good. And when we only focus on things that are going well, we stop ourselves from really growing because we're not going through the pain of growing. Change is different. And biologically speaking, any form of change requires new neural pathways. And that in and of itself, that growth of those new neural pathways is painful. It takes energy. It challenges everything we believe about ourselves. But is it worth it? I think you know what the answer is for you. So effectively, when we buy into our ego and we engage in toxic pride, we stop living from that tender heart. And I had an experience like this recently. You may know about it if you know me very well. I had a colleague whom I trusted and respected engage with a narcissistic coach. And this is a dynamic where good-hearted people who want to self-establish can fall prey to a narcissistic abuse. The narcissists, when they're in our perceived positions of power, so let's just say I have a coach who's a narcissistic personality type, they really activate the toxic pride within us by telling us that we can do anything, and by telling us that the only person we need to consider is ourselves. Now, as a result of this influence and the subsequent toxic pride that rose from my colleague, from within them, they stopped listening to other people. They stopped listening to feedback that the world was trying to give them. And so they didn't keep their decisions or their perspectives in check. The toxic pride in this case convinced that person that they themselves were being wronged by people who were generously giving to them and who were looking out for their best interest. Now, I'm not just talking about myself here at all. This happens. When we engage in toxic pride, we stop seeing everybody who support us for who we are, not for who our ego is. So this toxic pride behavior caused a lot of damage in the aftermath. And I don't think this was the intent of this person, this colleague. But much like offering to give somebody a lift when your brakes don't work in your car, by you trying to help somebody else, you might end up hurting them instead. And I know how much harder it is to do the real work and not do the spiritual bypasses. Because it is the real work that will get the real results. It is the pain of facing yourself, being self-effacing in your space of growth. And it is hard. Growth is hard. It's much harder than not growing in many ways. Well, at least in some ways. And I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this recording is familiar with the toxic pride. That's quite rampant in the industry of personal development. Um, but that's no excuse, you know, like for me and for anybody with the Sumilov Academy, I believe that like doctors, mentors, and coaches should have that rule, the commitment that first do no harm. And here's what in the midst of these thoughts of pain and toxicity, what I really do love about you, my dear my INFJ, INFP friends, is that, and actually our whole community, is that we do tend to want to listen to the feedback that we are given, especially when it's coming from people that we trust and respect. Even when it's not exactly what we want to hear, if we can see that it's coming from an open heart and it's coming from a place of support, we tend to listen to it because our self-worth is not reliant on being buttered up. That's one thing I really love about the introverted intuitive feelers. We can see who we are authentically, and we can see who other people are authentically. So, hey Ruby. Thank you. I'm gonna get you to go back a little bit so you're out of the camera. Thank you, my love. When we know that those who have our best interest at heart, you know, those people around us, they're not playing games with our minds and our hearts and our souls. They genuinely want to see us do well. And ultimately, when you find those people who have no agendas for you to change, for you to be in a certain way, to want to see you succeed, then you can see that those people may have some really good growth feedback for us to offer. And what I ultimately love about this community is that we are self-effacing. We are growth oriented. And that goes for you listening into this video. If you're still listening to this, you may want to hear what toxic pride is, and you may want to hear about it, how it might show up with you. It's certainly shown up for me many times. So, our Academy students, our integration mentor students, the Sumilov Academy staff, myself, we all have that capacity to fall into that toxic pride. And when we hear feedback that doesn't fit into our worldview, if we just ask questions instead of become defensive, we then have the capacity to not become toxic. Remember, ask questions. The thing is that we all trip and fall at times. It's inevitable. If you want to grow, you're going to fail. And I'm going to post a photo here in this message about myself tripping, and I'm just about to fall, literally. And the question becomes, can we laugh at ourselves? Can we stay with ourselves through our growth experience when we don't have to pretend that we're perfect? So next time that you set loving boundaries with others and they get defensive, please understand that, my dear friend, that's toxic pride. They're not asking questions. That's toxic pride. If they don't want to listen to when you're telling them that somebody that they're doing is hurting you or somebody else, that's toxic pride, and it is their prerogative. And it's the same way your prerogative to set boundaries if you are in presence of toxic pride. So, As it is your prerogative to set boundaries, it's also your prerogative to continue or not continue investing your heart in that relationship. Your thoughts, your heart, your thoughts, your soul, they are your driving force. So look out for those who want to support you, and look out for those who want to take advantage of it. Toxic pride. Let's do our best to not engage in it and to stay authentic. Faithfully, I'm here, yours. I'll see you at the next one.